at the cruise control set on the interstate. When I realized the brakes were dead, no matter how hard I stomped on the pedal, the speedometer stayed locked at 65 miles per hour. To my right was a massive 18-wheeler. To my left, in the passing lane, was a white sedan matching the semi's speed, boxing me in like a rolling roadblock. My wife Sarah was in the back seat feeding our baby Lily some puffs. She noticed. We were getting dangerously close to the white car's bumper. "Mike, why aren't you slowing down?" she asked, panic creeping into her voice. I looked in the rearview mirror, meeting her eyes. My throat felt like I'd swallowed broken glass. "Sarah, listen to me. Tighten your seatbelt. Hold on to the handle. And I love you." I laid on the horn. Sarah's eyes went wide. She knew the guy in the white sedan ahead was cruising at maybe 50, completely oblivious or just an asshole. I hate campers in the left lane. I kept the horn blaring. Finally, the white sedan sped up a little. I started to breathe again. But then the nightmare scenario happened. His brake lights flared red. There was nothing in front of him. The road was clear. He was brake checking me because my honking annoyed him, but I couldn't stop. Crunch. My SUV slammed into his rear bumper. The impact shook us violently. Sarah screamed, grabbing the handle. I white-knuckled the steering wheel. If I swerved, that semi-truck next to us would turn us into scrap metal. Luckily, the guy in the white sedan had only meant to scare me. When he felt the hit, he panicked, floored the gas and shot forward, putting distance between us. We cleared the semi. The white sedan's window rolled down. A man's arm hung out waving frantically, followed by a middle finger. He started drifting into the right lane, trying to force me to pull over. Sarah rolled down her window, screaming against the wind. "The brakes are gone. We can't stop." But at highway speeds, the wind rush swallowed her words. Seeing me drive past him, the white sedan floored it and caught up. The guy was furious. He was the one camping in the passing lane. He was the one who brake checked me. But now he acted like the victim. He flipped me off again, his face twisted in rage. He gunned his engine, swerving in front of me again. This lunatic was trying to play games on the highway. Unstable drivers are just grim reapers looking for innocent families. The moment his bumper cleared my hood, I rammed him again. Boom. Another collision. His rear bumper crumpled. My car lurched, losing balance. I gripped the wheel, sweat stinging my eyes. The faster we went, the deadlier this got. One slip, and we'd flip. "Why is he doing this?" Sarah sobbed from the back. "What is wrong with him?" I wanted to rip the guy out of his car and tear him apart. My wife, my child. They were everything to me. We were hanging by a thread. And this guy didn't think he was wrong. He probably thought I was raging and trying to hit and run. Sure enough, the white sedan chased us down again. His trunk was smashed in, but he wasn't done. I was stuck at 65. He floored it, cutting in front of me. My stomach dropped. His sunroof opened. A hand popped out holding a large fast food bag. He tossed it. A supersized soda. And a bag of greasy fries exploded against my windshield. Brown liquid and grease smeared across the glass, blinding me instantly. I hit the wipers, but it just smeared the grease into an opaque, oily film. We were driving blind. The oil smear was getting worse with every wipe. I had to turn them off and let the wind dry the gunk, just enough so I could see vague shapes through the mess. Sarah was shaking, terrified, but she had her phone out dialing 911. "I'm on I-95 with my husband. Our brakes failed," she screamed into the phone. "There's a maniac attacking us. He's throwing things at our car." She switched to speaker mic. "Dispatch needs to know where we are. Just past the exit for Georgetown heading south." I yelled. "Vehicle description." The operator asked calmly. "Matt Gray, Explorer license plate 7-2-C-3-2. I said we can't stop. We are closing the on-ramps ahead and clearing the lanes. Rolling roadblocks are en route. Can you see the aggressor's plate?" "No, I can't see anything clearly. He's right next to me." "Understood. Maintain your course. Help is coming." I swallowed hard and asked the only question that mattered. "How far to the nearest runaway truck ramp?" Silence on the line for a few seconds. 50 miles. "We will do our best to escort you." 50 miles. That was basically 2 counties away. My heart sank. The white sedan was parallel to me again. The driver was screaming obscenities, keeping pace, so I couldn't move over to the emergency lane. "Mike," Sarah said, unbuckling her seatbelt. "Did you turn on the lane assist?" "Yes." "Get back here. Switch seats with me." I looked in the mirror. Her face was tear-streaked but determined. "The back seat is safer," she pleaded. Let me drive. If you die, Lily and we can't make it without you. You bring in the money, you have to survive." I looked at Lily. She was oblivious, gumming on a cracker, waving her little hands. Say dada, I whispered, forcing a smile. She hadn't said it yet. If today was the day I died, I wanted that to be the last thing I heard. Lily just giggled. Sarah tugged at my shirt. Mike, move. Don't use the baby as an excuse. I choked out. Listen to me, Sarah. I never believed in an afterlife. But if this goes south, I'll find you in the next one. Sarah froze. My heart hammered against my ribs. The white sedan was making a move again, was accelerating on the right. He rolled his window down again. He was holding something heavy, a tire iron, a wrench. Before I could react, he hurled it. Crash. My passenger side window shattered. Sarah screamed, a sound of pure agony that will haunt me forever. The heavy steel tool smashed through the glass, carrying enough momentum at highway speeds to punch through the seat. It slammed into Sarah's shoulder in the back. I whipped my head around. Sarah was pinned to the seat, clutching her shoulder, blood pouring out data. Lily shrieked, no longer giggling but terrified by the noise. A shard of flying glass had slashed her cheek. Blood was running down her tiny face. The rage that filled me then was cold and black. Kill him. That was the only thought. Sarah, pale and trembling, yanked the tool out of the seat and threw herself over Lily. It's okay, baby. Mommy's here. Mike, she gasped. Lily's cut. There's glass. I can't tell how deep. I looked at the rearview mirror. My wife pierced, my daughter bleeding. Minutes ago, we were a happy family. Now we were a slaughterhouse on wheels. If I survived this, I was going to kill that driver. Wind whistled through the broken window, blowing shards of glass into the cabin. I had to be rational. I had to bury the rage to save them. The white sedan pulled ahead again, the driver holding his hand out the window, giving me the finger. An idea formed. A dangerous, crazy idea. He likes being in front, fine. I'll use him. If I tailgate him, he clears the road for me. If he brakes, I ram him. His car has brakes, can use his weight and his brakes to stop mine. I could push him into the guardrail, use him as a buffer to slow us down. I turned the wheel, drifting directly behind him. He didn't expect that. He swerved left. I swerved left. He went right. I shadowed him. Sarah saw what I was doing, clutching her bleeding shoulder. She whispered, "Day on in, Mike." Suddenly, the white sedan jerked hard to the left, almost hitting the median. I reacted instantly, swerving with him. That's when I saw it, a massive wooden crate in the middle of the lane. Probably fell off a truck. He waited until the last second to swerve, hoping I'd hit it and die. Cold sweat drenched my back. This guy was actively trying to murder us. I stayed glued to his bumper. He realized he couldn't shake me, so he started to slow down. Since I couldn't brake, I slammed into his rear again. Metal screeched. I kept the wheel straight, letting his brakes do the work for both of us. My speedometer dropped. 65, 55, 50, it was working. I planned to grind us both into the guardrail once we were slow enough. But then he floored it. He broke contact, shooting forward and veering away. My car surged back to its preset speed. Brace yourselves, I roared. I yanked the wheel toward the shoulder. I couldn't let us hit a tree at 50 miles per hour. Dead on, I had to side, swipe the rail. My SUV slammed into the metal guardrail. Sparks flew like fireworks. A screech of tearing metal was deafening. I wrestled the wheel, trying to keep the friction high without flipping over. We plowed through the rail. We hit the dirt embankment. Boom. The airbags deployed, punching me in the chest. Dust and smoke filled the cabin. My vision went black for a second. I gasped for air, but my chest felt like it had caved in. Sarah, Lily. I wheezed. Sarah was slumped over unconscious. Lily was screaming from her car seat, her face a mask of red. My door was jammed. My legs were pinned under the dashboard. Smoke was starting to curl up from the hood. I saw a movement outside. The white sedan had stopped 100 yards up. The driver got out. He didn't run over to help. Pulled out his phone. He walked toward my wrecked car, recording a video. Look at this idiot. He narrated to his screen. Road raging on the interstate, rear-ended me twice. Tried to run me off the road. Now look at him. Got what he deserved. He walked up to my shattered window, say, "Cheese, asshole." The smoke filling the cabin tasted like burnt hair and chemical powder. My ears rang a high, sustained pitch that drowned out the world, save for the rhythmic, agonizing screams of my daughter. And then there was his voice. Smug. Nasal. So completely detached from the slaughterhouse he had just created. "Say cheese, asshole." He leaned closer to the shattered window, his smartphone camera mere inches from my face. I could see my own reflection in his lens. Face smeared with blood from my nose, eyes wide and feral, trapped like a wounded animal in a cage of twisted steel. The rage I felt didn't burn. It was absolute zero. It clarified everything. My legs were crushed beneath the steering column, a blinding agony shooting up my femurs every time I twitched. But my arms were free, and he was too close. I didn't yell. I didn't warn him. I lunged. My right hand shot through the jagged teeth of the broken window, fingers hooking directly into the collar of his expensive polo shirt. The sudden movement caught him entirely off guard. I yanked him downward with every ounce of adrenaline-fueled strength left in my body. His face slammed into the crumpled door frame. Crack. His phone slipped from his hand, tumbling onto my lap. He shrieked, a high, pathetic sound, and tried to pull away, but I had his collar twisted in a death grip, pulling his throat tight against the jagged glass still jutting from the windowsill. You threw it at my wife, I hissed, my voice a broken rasp against the hissing engine. Let go. You're crazy, he sputtered, his hands clawing at my forearm. He was bleeding from a gash on his forehead now. I got it all on video. You hit me. You hit me. You threw a wrench into a car with a baby, I said, pulling him a fraction of an inch tighter. The glass bit into the skin of his neck. A thin line of crimson welled up. I wanted to drag him through the window. I wanted to feel his trachea collapse under my grip. In the back, Lily's crying hitched into a breathless, terrifying silence, followed by a weak whimper. The sound snapped the cold spell. I couldn't be a murderer. If I killed him, I couldn't save them. With a guttural yell, I shoved him backward. He stumbled, tripping over the loose gravel of the embankment, and fell hard onto his backside. He scrambled away like a frightened crab, clutching his bleeding neck, his bravado entirely evaporated. You're going to jail, you psycho, he screamed from a safe distance, wiping the blood from his brow. I ignored him. I grabbed his phone off my lap, swiped it to stop the recording, and shoved it deep into my jacket pocket. Then, I twisted around as far as my trapped legs would allow. Sarah, I choked out. Sarah, please. She didn't move. The heavy steel wrench was on the floorboard now, slick with her blood. She had thrown herself over Lily's car seat before passing out. Her back was rising and falling in shallow, jagged increments. I reached out, my fingertips barely brushing the back of her shirt. It was soaked through. Through the shattered windshield, the flashing red and blue lights of the highway patrol finally cut through the dust and smoke. The rolling roadblock the 911 dispatcher had promised. They were 10 minutes too late. Doors slammed. Voices barked orders over megaphones. Drop the weapon. Step away from the vehicle. I looked out. 2 state troopers were advancing on the white sedan. The driver, the lunatic, was waving his arms frantically, pointing at my SUV. He's crazy. He tried to kill me. He's got my phone, he was yelling, playing the victim with Oscar-worthy desperation. A 3rd trooper rushed down the dirt embankment toward my smoking Explorer, a heavy fire extinguisher in his hands. He blasted the hood, a cloud of white foam engulfing the hissing radiator. He stepped around to my window, his hand resting cautiously on his holstered sidearm. He took one look inside the cabin, and his entire demeanor shifted from defensive to urgent. Dispatch, we need EMS at mile marker 114 immediate. Mass casualty, entrapment, pediatric trauma. He looked down at me. Sir, can you hear me? Don't move your neck. My wife, I gasped, pointing to the back. Bleeding out. Tire iron, he threw a tire iron through the window. My baby is cut. The trooper's eyes widened. He peered into the back seat, saw the pool of blood, the shattered glass, and the heavy steel tool on the floor mat. He immediately keyed his radio again. Update on EMS, expedite. And detain the driver of the white sedan. Put him in cuffs right now. Through the hazy windshield, I watched the 2 troopers on the shoulder grab the lunatic, spinning him around and slamming him against the trunk of his own crumpled car. The handcuffs clicked. He was screaming, thrashing, but they held him fast. The adrenaline began to leave my system, replaced by a wave of cold nausea and an all-consuming pain radiating from my crushed lower half. Hold on, buddy, the trooper said, reaching in to check Sarah's pulse. Fire department is 2 minutes out with the cutters. We're going to get them out. Tell me she's alive, I begged. She's got a pulse. It's thready, but it's there, he said. He reached over Sarah's slumped form and carefully pulled Lily from her car seat. My daughter's face was covered in a mix of tears, dust, and blood from the slice on her cheek, but her eyes were open. When Lily saw me, she reached out a tiny, shaking hand. My vision began to tunnel. The edges of the world turned dark gray. I heard the distant, mechanical groan of sirens, the heavy crunch of fire truck tires on gravel. I saw men in heavy yellow turnout gear swarming the car, with hydraulic spreaders. The last thing I heard before the darkness took me was the screech of tearing metal as they ripped the roof off my car. I woke up to the rhythmic beep of a heart monitor and the smell of sterile linen. The ceiling was a grid of harsh fluorescent lights. I tried to sit up, but a sharp agony tore through my chest. Ribs. Broken. I looked down and saw both of my legs encased in thick casts, suspended slightly by a traction rig at the end of the hospital bed. "Don't move, Mr. Hayes." I turned my head. A man in a cheap brown suit was sitting in a vinyl chair in the corner of the room. He had a notebook open on his lap. Beside him stood a uniformed police officer. "Who are you?" My throat was parched. My voice sounded like grinding sandpaper. "Where is my family?" "I'm Detective Russo," the man said, standing up. He didn't offer a smile. "Your wife is in the ICU. She just got out of a 4-hour surgery. The steel tool shattered her clavicle and severed an artery. She lost a lot of blood. Your daughter received 7 stitches on her face, but is otherwise in stable condition in the pediatric ward." Relief, sharp and painful, brought tears to my eyes. Alive. They were alive. "The brakes," I said, looking at the detective. "The cruise control locked." I couldn't stop. Russo wrote something down. "That's what you told the dispatcher. We've impounded the vehicle. Our mechanics will pull the EDR, the event data recorder. It'll tell us exactly what your pedals were doing at the time of the crash." "Good. Check it." "And the guy in the white car? He was throwing things. He brake-checked me. He tried to kill us." Russo sighed, pulling a tablet from his briefcase. He tapped the screen and held it up for me to see. It was a video. It was already on the internet. It started from the perspective of the white sedan's driver, looking in his rearview mirror. It showed my gray SUV tailgating him aggressively, the horn blaring. Then the camera flipped to the driver. He looked terrified. "This guy has been chasing me for 10 miles. I'm doing the speed limit, and he keeps ramming me. I think he's going to kill me." The video cut out. "That's a lie," I growled, my heart rate spiking on the monitor. "He was camping in the left lane. When I honked, he brake-checked me. The impact jammed something in my electronics. The brakes failed. He deliberately kept me boxed in." "Mr. Vance, the driver of the sedan, claims you were experiencing severe road rage," Russo said smoothly. "He says he threw the tire iron in self-defense because you were trying to run him into the median. He claims you stole his phone at the crash site to destroy evidence. I took his phone so he'd stop recording me like I was an animal in a zoo. It's in my jacket pocket." I pointed frantically at the closet. "And what about the 911 call?" "My wife called 911 before he threw the wrench. We told dispatch we couldn't stop. We have the tapes, Mr. Hayes. But right now, we have a man with a clean driving record claiming a crazed father rammed him repeatedly on the interstate. And we have a shattered SUV with your footprints all over his rear bumper." "Check the EDR," I said, my voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "Check the telemetry. And check the highway cameras. You'll see him throw his garbage at my windshield. You'll see him pacing me so I couldn't use the runaway ramp." Russo stared at me for a long moment. He didn't look convinced, but he didn't look entirely dismissive either. "I intend to, Mr. Hayes. But until the forensics come back, I have to advise you not to leave the state. You're both under investigation." He left his card on my bedside table and walked out. I stared at the ceiling, the cold black rage returning. Vance wasn't just a lunatic. He was a coward. He had almost murdered my family, and now he was trying to hide behind a carefully curated internet video to paint himself as the victim. If I survived this, I was going to kill that driver. The thought from the highway echoed in my mind. But no. Killing him was too easy. I had to strip away his lies. I had to expose him to the world. It took 3 days before the hospital staff allowed me to use a wheelchair. Both of my tibias were fractured, the result of the dashboard collapsing on my legs when we hit the embankment. The first place I wheeled myself was the pediatric ward. My mother had flown in from Chicago to watch Lily. When I rolled into the room, Lily was sitting on the floor, stacking wooden blocks. There was a neat white bandage taped over her right cheek. When she saw the wheelchair, she stopped. She looked at me with wide, hesitant eyes. "Hey, Bug," I whispered, holding out my arms. My mother gently lifted her and placed her on my lap, mindful of the casts. Lily touched my hospital gown, then looked up at my face. She patted my bruised cheek. "Duh," she mumbled. The sound broke me completely. The tears I had been holding back for 3 days spilled over, tracking down the grime and cuts on my face. I buried my face in her soft hair, holding her as tightly as my broken ribs would allow. "She's okay, Mike," my mother said softly, rubbing my shoulder. "She's resilient." "I know, but I have to see Sarah." My mother wheeled me down to the surgical ICU. Sarah was awake, but barely. She was propped up on pillows, her left arm strapped tightly to her torso in a complex sling. The right side of her neck was bruised purple and yellow. When I rolled to her bedside, she reached out with her good hand. I took it, pressing her knuckles to my lips. "Mike," she breathed. "You look terrible. You should see the SUV." I tried to joke, but my voice cracked. "I'm so sorry, Sarah." "I should have." "Stop," she said, her grip surprisingly strong. You saved us. You sideswiped the rail. You used the friction to stop the car. If you hadn't, we would have hit that embankment at 65. We would be dead. The guy, I said, the anger tightening my jaw.
Vance.
He's trying to frame me. He put a video online. Sarah's eyes darkened. The vulnerability faded, replaced by the same fierce determination she had shown when she tried to climb into the driver's seat. Then we destroy him, she whispered. 2 weeks later, the tide finally turned. I was recovering at home, confined to the first floor, navigating the living room in my wheelchair. Sarah was on the couch, her arms still immobilized. Detective Russo knocked on our front door on a rainy Tuesday morning. He didn't have his notebook this time. He held a manila folder. "Come in, detective," I said, backing the chair up. He walked into the living room, took off his hat and looked at Sarah, then at me. His posture had completely changed. The bureaucratic stiffness was gone. "I came to apologize, Mr. Hayes," Russo said quietly. I stopped adjusting my wheels. "For what?" He opened the folder and placed a thick stack of printed reports on our coffee table. "Ford Engineering finished with your EDR, and the State Crime Lab finished with the brake assembly. Your car didn't suffer a simple mechanical failure. It was a catastrophic software loop triggered by the first impact." I frowned. "Meaning?" "When Mr. Vance brake-checked you the first time and you rear-ended him, the impact crushed the wiring harness behind the front grille. It shorted out the collision avoidance radar and sent a faulty signal to the powertrain control module. The computer thought you were rapidly decelerating, so it overcompensated by locking the electronic throttle open to maintain the cruise control speed. Simultaneously, the ABS control module fried, disabling the hydraulic brakes. It locked me in," I said softly. "A 1 in a million electronic cascade failure," Russo confirmed. "The black box shows exactly what you said. From the moment of the first impact, your brake pedal was depressed at 100% pressure, but the system registered 0 hydraulic output. Your accelerator pedal was at 0. You were literally standing on the brakes, and the car was driving itself." Sarah let out a shaky breath, closing her eyes. "And Vance?" I asked, leaning forward. "We pulled the DOT cameras from Interstate 95, Russo said, a grim smile touching his lips. "We couldn't see the initial brake check because of a blind spot in the cameras. But we saw everything else. We have high-definition footage of him pacing you. We have footage of him throwing a large fast food cup at your windshield. We have him deliberately swerving to keep you out of the emergency lane." Russo tapped a glossy photograph in the folder. It showed a still frame of Vance leaning out of his sunroof, arm cocked back. "And we have the tire iron," Russo continued. "His fingerprints are etched into the metal. The blood on it belongs to your wife. The forensics match the trajectory from his sunroof straight through your shattered window." "Have you arrested him?" Sarah asked, her voice cold as ice. "Patrol officers picked him up at his office an hour ago," Russo said. "Aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, reckless endangerment, felony leaving the scene of an accident, and filing a false police report. The district attorney is pushing for attempted manslaughter." I looked down at my casted legs, feeling the phantom ache of the crushed bones. I thought about the video Vance had posted, the thousands of comments from strangers calling me a maniac, wishing death upon me and my family.
"He tried to play the internet," I said.
"The internet is fickle," Russo replied. "The DA's office is releasing a statement at noon. They're releasing the 911 audio, your wife begging for help while he attacked you, and the DOT camera footage. Mr. Vance's narrative is about to violently implode. The trial, 6 months later, was a formality disguised as a media circus." I walked into the courtroom with the aid of a cane. My legs still burned on rainy days, and the physical therapy was a grueling, daily torture. But I walked. Sarah sat in the gallery behind me, a faint, pale scar visible on her collarbone above the neckline of her dress. Arthur Vance sat at the defense table. He looked nothing like the smug, arrogant man who had pointed his phone at me in the wreckage. He had lost weight. His suit hung loosely on his frame. The social media backlash had destroyed his career. His employer had fired him the day the police released the DOT footage. The court of public opinion had tried and convicted him before the jury was even selected. When the prosecutor played Sarah's 911 call in the courtroom, the silence was absolute. "There's a maniac attacking us. He's throwing things at our car. We can't stop." I watched the jury. I saw a middle-aged woman cover her mouth. I saw a man in a flannel shirt glare at Vance with undisguised disgust. Vance's defense attorney tried to argue that his client was panicked, that he thought I was a road-raging attacker, and that the tire iron slipped from his hand while he was waving it defensively. It was pathetic. The EDR data and the camera footage dismantled the lies mathematically. You don't match speed with an attacker. You don't block them from an exit ramp if you're trying to escape. When it was my turn to testify, I took the stand slowly, setting my cane aside. The prosecutor, a sharp woman named Verma, walked me through the events. She asked about the fear, The realization that the brakes were gone, the sheer terror of being boxed in. "Mr. Hayes," she said softly, "when the defendant threw the steel wrench through your window, what did you see?" I looked directly at Vance. He couldn't meet my eyes. He stared at his trembling hands on the mahogany table. "I saw my wife pinned her seat, bleeding out," I said, my voice steady, carrying through the quiet courtroom. "I saw my daughter's face covered in blood from the flying glass. I saw the defendant driving alongside us, smiling." Vance flinched. "And what did you do?" Verma asked. "I did the only thing I could," I said. "I used his vehicle to stop mine. I used his aggression against him to save my family. Because if I hadn't, he would have watched us burn, and he would have posted the video online." The jury deliberated for less than 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. When the judge read the verdict, Vance collapsed into his chair, sobbing into his hands.
There was no pity in me.
I felt only a profound, hollow exhaustion. The judge sentenced him to 15 years in a state penitentiary, with no possibility of parole for 8. As the bailiffs hauled him away, he finally looked back at me. His eyes were wide, panicked, looking for a shred of sympathy. I didn't give him the finger. I didn't smile. I just looked through him, as if he no longer existed. Because to me he didn't. A year after the crash, we took a drive to the coast. It was the first time I had driven on an interstate since that day. We bought a different car, a heavy, boxy Volvo. I refused to use the cruise control. My foot hovered nervously near the brake pedal the entire trip, my eyes constantly checking the rearview mirror for aggressive drivers. The trauma didn't magically vanish with a guilty verdict. It lingered in the sudden flinch when a car merged too closely, in the cold sweat that beaded on my neck when traffic slowed abruptly. But I was driving. We were moving forward. Sarah reached over the center console, resting her hand on my thigh.
Her touch grounded me.
The panic receded, replaced by the steady rhythm of the tires on the asphalt. "You're doing great, Mike," she murmured. I smiled, a genuine one, and glanced in the rearview mirror. Lily was in her new, reinforced car seat. She was nearly 2 years old now. The tiny scar on her cheek had faded to a thin white line, barely noticeable unless you knew to look for it. She was clutching a stuffed bear, staring out the window at the passing trees. She caught my eyes in the mirror. She kicked her little feet, her face breaking into a massive, toothy grin. "Dada drive," she announced loudly. I let out a breath I felt like I had been holding for 12 months. The sun broke through the clouds, catching the salt spray from the distant ocean on the windshield. "Yeah, bug," I said softly, gripping the wheel. "Dada's driving. We're going home."